So yesterday, I took the broken stock. It just had a bunch of cracks in it. And I just put a bunch. I first dipped it in muriatic acid to dissolve any oils that were on it. And then I boiled it in water, tap water, for about 10 minutes. Just the end that was cracked. And then I spread the cracks open by sliding a knife into them, this junky knife that I have here. And then I filled them with Gorilla Glue. And then I used electrical tape, stretching it as I wrapped it around to hold the glue in the cracks, as well as squeeze everything together. Let's see how that came out. Alright, here it is. So you can see there was a considerable amount of cracking. But I think the Gorilla Glue alone is as strong as the wood probably would have been. However, I'm going to also put a pin through here behind the butt plate, probably like a countersunk threaded rod, stainless steel with a couple of nuts or something. Maybe just pins that are glued, maybe just nail and stainless steel pins that are glued, I'm not sure. But something through that's going to squeeze it all together so it's got a little bit more than just the glue holding it together. I'll do one up here because it was completely split. I'll probably do one toward the back too. So it's got two pins going through. Just anywhere there's not already a hole, so I don't have a pin going through something and blocking something. Stock refinishing. Okay, so we got a crack here. I filled a bunch of cracks with a bunch of Gorilla Glue after boiling the stock in water and degreaser and acid to remove all the oils from it. And then we have a broken off piece here. So I got this piece of let's say a hardwood cutting board that was junk because I cut up into door stops. So I'm going to cut a little piece off of that and then use it to attach to the stock here to rebuild this edge. Okay, then I'm going to put some pins into this cracked up end and try to fill these little cracks here with glue because it looks like they don't have very much glue in them. And then once it's got some pins going through it and this is rebuilt, then it should be ready to go. Oh well, I'm also going to sand it down because of all this repair work on it. I'm going to do a darker stain, like an ebony stain, to kind of try and hide as much as I can all the damage. So the Dremel tool has a little wood saw attachment, so I take off this little cutting wheel for metal, put on this little wood saw. I'm going to try and pay attention to the teeth are facing the right direction. And I'm going to notch out this piece of wood. I'm going to clean up this face here. Probably put a little pattern into it, or try to, so they can kind of lock together a little bit. And once it's all locked together, I'll drill a hole straight through it, put a dowel, and then glue it all together and clamp it. Alright, I got it pretty close with the notch cut into the piece of wood I'm going to replace it with, but I'm going to now, with this pressed together, I'm going to put some sandpaper in between them that doesn't touch the notch, that avoids the notch. I'm just going to move them a little bit, pressing them together to get them to kind of like form fit to each other. Just a little bit of shaking. Okay, I formed that little block, and I drilled some little pilot holes around as places to put pins so that this thing can be held together by more than just the glue. And what I'm doing with these little finishing nails as pins is I'm dipping them in Gorilla Glue before I am putting them into the holes, and which I drilled about halfway, and then hammering the rest of the way in. Alright, and here's the current state. I put some JB Weld inside on all the chipped up, cracked, broken wood to try and fuse it all together a little bit. Gonna do a little sanding with the old DeWalt, and then, well, we'll do another video. Alright, and there it is after some sanding. And I mean, is it perfect? I'm also not done sanding, but no, it's definitely not perfect. But is it, much better off? Yes. There's also like a big crater here. Some other little places where there's like missing wood, like along this edge here. So I'm gonna have to like put it together and then add some filler and then take it apart again and then stain it. Here's some ebony stain. I forget the brand. And there's the repair, which hopefully with some ebony stain won't be super noticeable. Okay, so I put some ebony stain on it, and I left it in 80 when I did that. I put it on heavy. Now it's absorbed most of it. I'm going to switch to 180, sand the entire thing again, and then do another coat. And then repeat onto like maybe 220 after that, and then 320. And then that's it. Now sand it in 180, which I made like a slurry on the outside, which when I wipe it off, after the final sanding, I'm going to wipe it off against the grain to try and leave it all filled in. And now sand it in 220. Gonna give it one more coat and blast it with 340 or 350 or whatever I got. Okay, now sand it in 400. And I'm going to give it one more light coat to even it back out, while trying not to wash away all the slurry of sawdust that's on there. And then let it sit for a few minutes and wipe it off. Okay, the last coat just went on. Let it sit for like 20 minutes and wipe it off. And yeah, normally I wouldn't have done this thing so dark. You know, the dark black receiver and barrel and stock. And it looked like it was decently colored walnut anyway. But, you know, with the damage, I wanted to hide the damage. And it looks like the damage is hardly noticeable now. Okay, there's some final finished looking stuff. It didn't actually stain in as dark as I thought it was going to, but certainly stained it darker than it was. And like the broken repair, it's a little visible. Maybe I'll put a little bit more on that afterwards to darken that up a little bit further. But I think it came out pretty good. So now trying to put it together, it's like it like won't let the trigger group come into the stock nicely. It's like pressing against them. So I think I might have put these trigger levers in upside down. So I'm going to drive the pin back out and flip them over. That would make a huge difference. So while fitting it back together, the repair broke. But it didn't like break off like the glue failed. It snapped off and fell into this leaf litter here. And good luck finding a little brown and ebony 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch square piece of wood with the leaf litter. So I cut another piece of wood. This time I used the handle of the brush that I was using. I threw the doorstop away. I'm going to Gorilla Glue it in place. And then this time I'm really going to actually drill and put a pin through it when it's dry and done. I did a little bit of cutting with the Dremel tool and some sanding in place here, so it matches pretty well. But at some point when I take it apart again, I'll do a little bit of even more sanding to make it blend perfectly. I decided to rub one more coat on it with the ebony stain. And I got that repaired repair in, and I want it to blend.